This is Factory Fridays from boats.com, the show where we visit builders across America to get a first-hand look at their boat building techniques, materials, and stories.
Hi, I'm Marilyn DeMartini, welcoming you to boats.com's Factory Fridays. Today we're in Merritt Island, Florida, to visit the Aviara facility. Aviara is the luxury cruising craft of the MasterCraft Holdings brand, and we're going to meet with Rob Nye, the Director of Sales and Marketing, to show us how these boats are built. Come join us. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Marilyn, how you doing today?
Excellent. We're eager to learn more about Aviara.
Absolutely. I'm glad you chose us and wanted to come and see how we build the Aviaras.
So tell us about the factory.
Yeah, give you a little lay of the land. So actually, Aviaras, we started building all of our boats here in January of 2021. So we acquired the facility in late in the year of 2020. And we're actually sitting on 38 acres, so we've got plenty of room to grow here. And currently we have 137,000 square feet under roof. So you'll see we have a fabrication, lamination, and assembly all done right here on site, along with some of our vertically integrated components. And yeah, be happy to show you through. We'll start off in fabrication first, and then we'll work through the process all the way to water test in the marina and basin.
All right, let's hit it.
Let's go. So this is our fabrication building. So this is the first part, and everything we do within this building feeds to assembly or lamination. So right next to us is actually our lab. So in the lab, all the gel coats, the resins, any of the chemicals we use in our lamination process, we test before we put it out to production to use. So we want to check if something is right or not the right color, or just a little wrong before we start to spray and build boats out of it. So this is the lab area right here. And to the left is the RTM room. So all the lids and hatches, small parts, so like a dash panel or an armrest that's gel coated, we actually make in this room and they're color matched. So we'll step into here and check it out next.
All right.
Absolutely. So Marilyn, in this room you'll see we actually make all of the hatches, the lids, the gas fill, your anchor lid. Here's actually behind us, this is actually a door for the storage compartment under the wet bar. So we call it RTM, which gives us a nice A-side finish both on the front and the back side. So one thing that's unique with Aviara is the amount, you see all the molds we use, all the different parts that we actually have an A-side finish on both sides. A lot of others will do open molding. So they spray gel coat and then you see the fiberglass on the back side and it looks really rough. So we actually spray it, gives you a nice finish on one side, nice finish on the other, and then this whole edge gets cut off to give you a nice cut edge. So that gives us that nice look when you open and close it. Here you'll see what we do first. The first part is we spray the color, and after the color, we'll actually roll in the fiberglass. And in a lot of our parts, we have a substrate. So all of our substrates, they're composite, there's no wood or anything, and that actually gives us strength inside that part. A lot of others would just put a lot of resin and fiberglass, but we actually will put a substrate that we cut all in-house inside this part, and then we'll put the top part of the mold sandwiched together, and we inject the resin in it, and out pops a nice finished fiberglass part. So.
And all your boats are gel coated, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So all our boats are color matched gel coat. That's one thing about them, even our deck. So you can get the deck to be navy, black, dark gray, light gray, to match the bottom of it. And that's one thing that takes a lot of effort with our team, is having all the different gel colors for all these different hatches. Almost all your other builders, they're all white. So it's easy, they're all just white parts. Whereas you can see behind me here, we've got a light gray, a white, a navy, a black, and I'm sure in process in this room. And so they'll actually get the order for a light gray AV32, and then they'll have to make all these parts and all the lids in the light gray. And so they build it by serial number. So they'll actually build that whole boat's hatches and push it to the line.
Sounds like it's very time consuming.
It is, and it's a lot to track, and this team in here is dedicated just to that process. So,
gotcha.
Absolutely.
So what happens next?
So if we walk over here, I want to show you how all the substrates and also how this process actually takes place real quick, and then we'll move on to upholstery.
Okay.
Awesome. So Marilyn, what I was talking about over there, when we actually make a part, we have different substrates that go inside the part to give it strength. It may be for the floor area, it may be for a lid, it may be able for a piano hinge to screw into. So you'll see here we've got a various amount of different substrates, about 5 different ones here. So depending, like this is actually for the drain cover that goes in the floor of a 32. This is going to, so a floor, it can actually take some of that stepping and that extra weight. Here you'll see this is for where the piano hinge will actually screw in. This is actually a material called Kusa. It's really strong. But then you'll notice here is actually a foam core for the actual lid that goes on the floor. So we actually have these, exactly. So different materials can absorb the resin at different rates, so it actually makes it a different strength. And then also behind you, you'll see different types of fiberglass. We have some that's woven or knitted, whereas other is just strands. So all during where the part goes, there's a rhyme or reason for the different parts. Like this right here is actually for the storage door on a wet bar. So you can actually see the little notch out for the latch right there. So different parts and pieces, but we cut all this in-house as well. So we're very vertically integrated come to that, and we'll show you that room in a minute, but we cut all of this right here.
All right.
Yeah. And then over here, we'll actually go to show you actually some of the parts in process. All right, so Marilyn, this is actually where they make the molds and make the actual part. So they've sprayed the gel coat on this part, they sprayed the gel coat on this, they laid in that substrate I talked about, laid in some fiberglass, and then they actually will clamp these two together. Then you actually see this, looks like a little bit like Frankenstein, but they'll actually inject resin through one and through a vacuum suck it back out. So it actually fully saturates the fiberglass and the substrate. After a series of about 30 to 45 minutes, it will kick off. This one doesn't feel hot, but sometimes I can walk up and this will be hot because actually heat is actually a byproduct of the reaction. So it'll kick off, and then after about 30, 45 minutes, you'll have a pleated part in the color that you wanted. So pretty impressive. They'll raise it out, they'll cut off the edge and send it off. If you actually look behind me, you see them over there. After they cut the edge, it goes through a finishing process to make sure it's got its luster and its shine. And then this big gray room behind me is actually the cut room. So that's where they take all the parts off and cut and capture all the dust particles out of the air.
So that's what gives everything that nice clean edge.
On both sides, exactly. So nice little cut, and you see a nice resin edge versus an ugly cut fiberglass edge. So.
All right. And awesome. Where does all this come together?
So we're gonna go hit upholstery real quick and a substrate room, and then we'll hit assembly.
All right, let's
awesome.
go.
Let's go. So now, Marilyn, now we're in our upholstery room. So we make lots of noise with air and nailers and staplers, but now that aside, so this is another part we vertically integrate. All of our upholstery we cut in-house, we sew it in-house, we wrap it. Now we do purchase our foam, but you'll see this part right here behind us. Even all the substrates that is for this cushion, we actually will cut that in-house. Now one thing that customers never see, a lot of manufacturers this will be out of wood or it'll be out of plastic or starboard, which a lot of people have heard of, or PVC board. But we take a little step further. We actually will miter the edge so it's not a hard knife cut, and then we actually will wrap that with this rubber gasket. So when you wrap foam and you bang into that over the time, you're not having that hard edge that vinyl's actually cutting on. This piece right here, if you notice, the foam as well, when you look here behind us, you'll see almost like a yellowish color, you'll see a white, you see a green, you see a blue. All those different colors mean different densities. So when you sit down on your bottom, it might have a little different density than your shoulders. Other areas that might be for the side of an arm might sit differently than your shoulder. So that's what all these different colors mean. Also our foam, a lot of others use flat foam. So just take a big sheet of 4x8 foam, cut it in shape, there's your cushion. Ours is actually a profile. So you notice it's thinner in the back and fatter at the edge, so that leg roll keeps your leg nice and supported out the edge. And this runs through a foam die.
And so your fabrics also are not overstitched.
No, that's one thing. Sophistication through simplicity. So every little detail, if that stitch is wrong, you're gonna see it. So it's nice and clean lines. And then we add our textures by different vinyls. So we have a perforated vinyl on the lumbar versus a nice smooth vinyl over the top. And what's standard on all our boats is the cool feel vinyl. So you'll notice we've got it in light gray, black, navy, white, to complement the colors of the boat on the outside with the interior vinyl too.
And it stays cooler, even in the darker colors, and it's easy to keep dry.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you want to wipe it clean, you can, because you have all this stitching detail. Also, the cool feel vinyl itself stays cooler, so that's why we actually have black in the navy, as I mentioned. So.
Right.
Yeah, now if we walk over here, I'll show you where we actually cut the vinyl. All right, so Marilyn, I love showing this to people because a lot of people don't see this on the boats. But this is actually a helm seat. This is either for a 32 or a 36. But what you'll notice, it's actually a fully welded aluminum frame under there. It's not just plastic or rotocast. It's actually a true welded frame seat. And what's really great, we've got it on this jig right here in this rig. It's actually hydraulic, so it can move around gives it an easier way for her to wrap it and make it all look nice and pretty and before we put it on the boat. But yeah, that's part of what people really don't see, and then the bolsters will go on there and we get it installed.
So you get the 360 view of it here as you're putting it all together.
Yeah, if we'd have walked in here when she started, this was just the frame on this stand. And then she's been adding the foam, adding the rolls, adding the different pieces of vinyl that have been sewn by the rest of the team, and she gets to put it all together.
And that's why it's so comfortable.
Absolutely.
That personal touch. You have a lot of different cutting machines here.
We do. So you'll notice behind me is one of our machines. We have 3 different machines in the facility. We have the machine that cuts all of the vinyl. As we walk through, you'll see we have a machine that cuts all of our fiberglass and all of the cloths, they call it. And then another room, we have a machine that cuts all the substrates, all the plastics, all the couche, any of the composite materials. And so yeah, this is just one of the 3 that has the responsibility for cutting that for the whole plant.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll head on over there.
So here's that finished helm seat.
Yeah, so actually we're passing through the upholstery staging room on our way to the other room. But yeah, so when they get finished, the inspectors, the first stage of QC will inspect. They ship it into this room. So right here you'll see, and behind us are all black. So this is all assigned to one boat. Up here we have another tan seat, and these are actually been covered to protect them before they go out to the line. But yeah, they'll inspect them, they'll move them to this room, stage them for each individual boat. So behind us you see the different shelves for one boat each, and then that goes out to the line. And then we'll keep going.
All right.
So, yeah, Marilyn, so this is what we call the cutting room, right? Call it cutting room. So this is actually our como. So all of our substrates, all the different materials, whether it's PVC, couche, starboard, you name it, we can cut on this machine. So over here you'll see it's actually popping out. Like that looks like that's probably a garbage can door frame, because you see the notch out of it for the latch. Yeah, little ball bearing trays here. They can lift and lower all the sheet goods with this pneumatic lift. Lowers it on, then they roll it in, and they tell it what to cut. And then they'll pop it out. It's all nicely nested. They pop it out, then they send it over to the other guys to actually start putting it all together and assembling it.
Very little waste here.
Yeah, that's the goal. So we definitely try to maximize the sheet goods and nest it all together. And then all this that you see over here, you can see the different various materials that he's been cutting this morning. So yeah, it's another great thing we have. Also, you'll see actually some wood sheets behind us. Actually, we do all of our cabinetry for the 36 and 40 in-house. So the only wood we have would be the cabinetry down inside the cabin. So we also have the cabinet shop inside here as well.
And you have some teak counter spaces and things also on the boat.
We have teak accents throughout the boat as well as solid surface. Now those 2 we do actually purchase, but yeah, that's a great thing. You can pick between the teak or the solid surface on the boat. So yeah, now we're actually going to go to lamination.
All right.
See where we actually start to spray the boats in gel coat. So we'll head on there next.
Some pretty complex looking molds, Rob.
Yeah, they actually really are. So if you look at it, a lot of others just kind of, they go up the deck, go down, you have a floor, you can go back up, and then they bolt a whole bunch of stuff on. So what we actually have done is integrated our storage, our seat bases, our fender storage, they're all on the deck. So if you see a lot of ups and downs and shapes and geometry, that's exactly what's going on. So this is a deck that actually has not had anything done to it. It's the mold. So it's upside down. The first thing we do is spray gel coat. And then after we spray the gel coat, we start to add bulk and add a strength. So behind us, he's got the chop gun. He'll actually put chop fiberglass down, which is little strands. And then after that, we start to add patterned fiberglass to that. So actually it's knitted or woven fiberglass. It gives you a lot of strength. And then they'll add the layers and start to build and build and build, and that gives the strength behind the boat. And when they're finished, they will actually pop it out of the mold and turn it right side up, and it's ready to be installed in the assembly area. So yeah. Now right over here though, we have a stringer grid that's also fiberglass that I want to show you, and also the hulls too. So we'll head on down that way. So Marilyn, so this is a liner. So with our boats, you have 3 major big parts, we'll call it. You have the hull, then you have the liner, the stringer grid, and then you have the deck that you see. So this is actually a stringer or structural liner. And you'll notice all the ups and downs and valleys. So you see how it goes up and down, So imagine corrugated steel, how it's just flat, it'll wobble. The more you up and down, the much more strength. So this is all unseen below the deck, below the floor, but this is what gives us that ride and that strength out in the water. Another little notice, you'll see little locators here on each side. We actually will fiberglass in PVC tubes to route and manage the water from one compartment to another to the bilge pumps if you do end up getting some water to carry it all through. But yeah, this all gives you that structure and strength. Right here you'll see, they look like upside down steps because they are. These are the steps that take you down into the head compartment on a 32.
Gotcha. So
this is what gives us that strength that you never really see. So, and over here we'll go look at a hull.
all right.
Awesome.
There's a lot of action going on here.
What you'll notice first off that's a lot different is these are on turners. So we can actually take our molds and rotate them. So what we can actually do is turn them as we're working on. So we have really deep hulls. So the deeper they are, it's tougher to get down and roll out the resin and your fiberglass.
It gives you a lot of freeboard.
Right, so actually what we'll be able to do is rotate them. We'll work on this half, and then we'll rotate it and be able to work on the other. Now one step we also do in our hulls that you don't see on a lot, after the gel coat goes down, we'll actually do another barrier coat or black gel. So as we're rolling, it'll actually show air voids to us better and bring that to our attention. So while these guys are rolling, they'll actually be able to identify that.
A lot of planning that goes into what materials are used and everything in Aviara.
Absolutely, because it's called bulk. So if we walk over the chart over there, you'll see there's about 4 different types of mat or fiberglass that we actually will use. So different areas require different strength, and so we actually have an intentional location for everything we use. So yeah, and the team back here, you see they work as a team. They've got the gunner here, the gun runner who's spraying, while his group is right behind him following. So yeah, a lot of activity today. So and now we'll go on to the next part where they do the inspection of the actual part before they roll it into assembly.
Okay.
Awesome, great.
Gives us a very good perspective on the hull shape of the Aviara.
Yeah, so we call this PI or parts inspection. As crazy as that may sound to us in manufacturing, this is a large part. The hull is a part. So they'll actually go through this. This is the first QC before it goes through assembly after they took it out of the mold. So they'll actually go through it, see any imperfections, buff it, sand, do whatever they need to do. Behind it you see this deck with the army of people on it. Over here she's looking at that's a helm module right there. So you'll see that they just actually will touch every part, make it all glossy and luster before they put it to assembly.
But as we're in search of perfection here, getting everything finalized, tell us a little bit about the hull shape.
Yeah, you'll notice just the look, starting with the accent that's just distinctly Aviara. But in the bow, you'll notice our bow shape. And what that allows us, it's more of straight up and down than a lot of others. It allows us to start our running surface further forward. So we actually, on a 32-foot boat, have a much longer running surface than others. It allows us to bring our chines forward. Also, the bow is very deep on our boats because that also allows us to have a deeper seating area. And the last part is when you do hit the rough chop, it absorbs that much greater than a shallower entry angle. It actually will absorb that bounce or that wake up there as it carries down throughout the boat. So it actually provides us a lot of things along with the look that most people are familiar with. All right, also if you're out on a boat in Aviara, which we'll be able to do later, the way that they cut and they just run and they ride is just something that really brings smiles to a lot of our owners.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing that.
We'll get out there, don't worry. So now we're gonna go from here, this is PI, and we're actually moving into assembly. So that's the next part that we'll see as we move forward. So,
okay.
But that way.
So here on the line, we've got 32s, 36s, and 40s all coming together at once, right?
Yeah, so you nailed it. So we've got 32 closest to us in the 36 line, and then the 40 line. So every boat after it rolls out of lamination and PI, it'll roll into assembly. It's a match set. So here in front of us is a deck, and that deck, its mate, the hull is right there in front of it. So they roll together in unison. You'll notice here on this boat, they've already installed the cleats, the speakers, the upholstery clips, and so they'll continue to install all the items to the boat as they bring it to life. About halfway down, if you look, you'll notice you'll start to see complete boats. So that's where they actually, what we call cap it. They'll actually put the deck on the hull and move it on through. But yeah, we start to add all the components throughout. You know, the wiring harness is all in its loom, all the water management with the drain hoses connected are all done throughout the boat. Other little things you don't see, but the cooler here, how it's got its insulation there for the bow cooler. It truly is an insulated cooler. You'll notice here, this upholstery in the tan, it's going to go on the boat right here in front of us. See the little wires coming out of it? That tells me that's a boat that's got heated seats. So that boat's going to get the heated seats installed.
That's a nice advantage for northern boaters.
Absolutely, you nailed it. That boat's more than likely going to one of the northern climates so it can extend the season. Then you get out on the water in the cooler mornings in the spring or the fall and be able to extend their season in comfort. So yeah, let's roll on through and start installing it all. So.
All right, let's move
yeah,
on.
we'll keep on going.
So here we can see the liner in place.
Yeah, so like we saw the liner and lamination, now we've actually bonded it in place. So the liner actually is chemically bonded, or the stringer grid. Fiberglass stringer grid liner is what you would call it. It's chemically bonded, so everywhere it touches the hull, it's bonded. Also wherever it kisses off and touches the actual hull itself, we've actually chemically bonded to make it one uniform piece. Also, we've got the fuel tank installed. You know what's neat, we've got dual fuel fills, so one big tank, but a fuel fill on each side so you're not dragging the hose. Water tank here in the rear is installed. Wiring harness is now installed. All that's now been put in this boat before we put the deck on top. You also notice just how thick our gel coat and our layup is of the hull right here, where we actually will put it all together. So starting to see it's starting to look more and more like a boat now.
And all of the storage, we've got the head that's dropped down in there.
Yep, so that's that's the head right there on the 32. Storage compartment there in front of the fuel tank that you have the lid. So yeah.
All right, coming together.
Absolutely.
Keep
so now
going.
hopefully next up we'll actually start to see a more complete boat.
Okay.
Yep.
So Rob, from this angle, we can really see a lot of the details that we talked about come together. I see we've got the black billet aluminum on the details here on the windshield and on the T-top. You've got the billet aluminum speaker covers, dark. I like how the nav lights blend into the rub rail. And you've got your own signature pop-up cleats on
Right,
this.
you're exactly right.
So you do have both kinds of power, both stern drive, Ilmor stern drives, and a lot of Mercury outboards here.
Yeah, so actually like the boat in front of us is an outboard. But yeah, this is an Ilmor, and that's what's great about the boats. The way they're designed, we can actually build the same boat, the 32, in either an outboard or a stern drive, and that goes for the 36 and the 40. So the boat that was right here earlier today is actually an Ilmor, and the good news, it's hopefully still gonna be down in the water for us to try out here in a few minutes.
I'm ready if you are.
Well, we'll go on and head on down that way and go for a ride.
All right. Well, Rob, that was fantastic, but it looks like this is where the proof is in the pudding.
Oh, this is the best part. So everybody would like to do this on a daily basis, they say, if they're not in the industry. But yeah, thanks for going through the plant, seeing how we build and fabricate all the components, what all our designers and engineers have done and put into the boat, the assembly, the lamination. But yeah, this is where we actually now get the chance. We take every boat that we manufacture out on a sea trial, give it a shakedown, go through the electrical, the running, make sure it's all right and the way we want it to be. And then after we get finished, we bring it back, they'll rinse it and get it ready, take it back up to the facility, go through any punch list items. And the 32 they just got done and they haven't cleaned it yet, so we get the opportunity to take this one out.
Let's go.
Awesome.
You know, after seeing how these boats are built, being out on the water and feeling it really pulls it all together. There's so many little differences that are subtle, but you can really sense them. Things like the feel and the sound of the Ilmor stern drive, the micro-anodized billet finishes, the Italian leather steering wheel, The comfort of the layout and the cool feel upholstery really makes the Aviara difference. Thanks for joining us on Factory Fridays, and we'll see you again on boats.com.
This is Factory Fridays from boats.com. Follow boats.com on YouTube and Instagram to stay tuned for the next episode. Visit boats.com for more videos and boat-related content. Boats.com. Everything boats.